So this video is going to be about week 5, but I am actually recording this at week 7 because I got a little bit behind. But I'm going to do my best to remember what happened that week. Um, so the head of my penis is something that I talked about before, and how it was like kind of in bits and pieces land. And week 5, it pretty much completely resolved. It was in a good position. Everything kind of sorted itself out. Everything looked really great. I still had some extra tissue of what once was like an inner labia that didn't get wrapped all the way around or something to that effect. Later, Dr. McGinn described it as a turkey neck. And I think that that's a perfect description of what it is, or what it was rather. Um, so other than that, the way that my penis looked just really worked out well, and I was happy with that. I didn't have any more retraction as far as I can tell. That also worked its way out, although I am told that a lot of people have gained length in the months following surgery, particularly once you start pumping again, if that's something that you do, which Dr. McGinn does not recommend doing until I think was it 6 months after surgery? Is it 6 months or a year after surgery? She recommends like if it's something you're gonna do to wait a considerable amount of time after surgery, um, for a variety of reasons. Um, but the main thing that I wanted to talk about was having my stitches out, which happened at week 5, which is a little bit longer than is typically done. I think typically it's like 2 or 3 weeks out, but Dr. McGinn was gone at that time, which is fine. There's not any negative repercussions of waiting that long, as far as I could tell. And obviously she wouldn't have waited that long. So I went down and had my stitches out, and right before I went in, I was like, this might not feel fantastic. I've never had stitches taken out before. When I had my top surgery done, I just had dissolvable ones, so I never really experienced that. And I've never had any other reason for stitches. Um, and so I took like half of Vicodin before I went in, and like half an hour before I went, and it was I would say it ranged during having them taken out between like, you know, pretty intense to like, wow, this pain isn't fucking around. It was kind of intense, in terms of pain, uh, for me. I mean, it's the most sensitive part of your body, and it might have hurt more, because they've been in longer, something like that. But I was, like, I was covered in sweat by the time we were done, and it didn't take all that long. It just was, uh, yeah, it was, you get through it. It was fine. It did not feel great. um, and I had some definite, like, moments. um, but that was fine. And then after that, she was like, "Well, to save you a trip, if you'd like, we can just go ahead and do a minor revision right now for the dewlappy turkey neck thing, the situation there." And I was like, "It's all right." So, uh, she had her physician's assistant um, put some numbing cream on like the bottom part of my penis, and then injected an analgesic directly into that tissue that was going to be removed. And I was really nervous about this. I was like, wow, all right, so you're going to inject my penis with some stuff. Wow, that makes me sweat on the inside and the outside. But it was fine. Like, she made sure it was numb. before she started injecting, I did just fine. And it's here that I want to maybe put a word of advice in. If you go with a friend or a partner or someone like that, and they are in the room with you, it's best to have a conversation with them beforehand about how they do with, seeing friends, partner, family, etc., in uncomfortable situations or pain, or with blood or things like that. Because some people have a harder time than others, and sometimes people faint when you're having things done. um, and so making sure that people have eaten enough, that you talk to them, or just having them sit out if, there's a question about that, because that can be a not so good situation. And not to disclose what happened with someone for their sake, because they were really embarrassed. But that was a situation that kind of happened, after having my penis injected. Um, Someone fainted, and there's a situation that was dealt with just fine, and it worked out fine, and everyone was safe, and everyone's fine now and healthy. But yeah, so words of wisdom, take that with you. So yes, so after being injected, Dr. McGinn took some medical scissors and just kind of went snip. um, Not quite with that motion, but just carefully cut off the extra skin that was there, and then sutured it, and it didn't hurt. Obviously, she made sure everything was very numb, before that happened, um, because they cut off part of my penis. And so it impacted girth a little bit, because it was an okay chunk. It was probably like, I don't know, maybe like that. That's really difficult to see. But maybe like half an inch or so by half an inch. I don't know. So like an okay chunk of tissue that was removed, and that took care of the issue. Now things are a lot more like just straight up and down, which is great. And there was some bleeding because obviously it's a very well vascularized area, meaning there's a large blood supply there, in part because of its function with erections and um, high sensation areas and things like that. Um, and and she left like a little chunk that she had cut off on the seat, which is, I was fine. I was like, whatever, but it was just really surreal to see, and I was like, oh, that was a part of me. Hello. It's just kind of funny. I laughed about it with her PA. So, so it's fine. I did have a little bit of pain afterwards. I wasn't given anything for the pain, but I had brought some Vicodin with me, and I took like, half of one after that, and then half like a few hours later. Pretty much when things got like a little too uncomfortable, because it's a good car ride back. And I also stopped in New York City, so there's a little extra time there. But so yeah, so if you can remember to bring pain meds with you, it might be a good idea, just in case. It's good to be prepared for that. Um, and let's see, I was also given new antibiotics, which I was on for 10 days. And with those, I didn't experience any of the yeast problems that I had with the previous ones, which was really great. And other than that, the only other direction I really had to follow was not showering for 48 hours after having that revision done, and also no sex for 2 weeks, which I suck at, um, but tried to be smart as I could about. Um, and yeah, things healed up pretty well. I was a little bit tender there, but it was a minor revision. A big whoop. Um, and yeah, so that about wraps it up for week 5.